Welcome to the Bulls Guys podcast. I'm your host, Kenyatta Wright, and this is my co-host, Greg Love.
What's going on?
Blowout victory. Well, kind of blowout victory. A little garbage points from the Wizards, but we should have blown them out. Big win for the Bulls. Second game against the Wizards. 300 victory of the season for Billy Donovan, of his career. 300 career victory for Billy Donovan. And the Bulls' first 9-game winning streak since 2011 of April. We're going to get into this game right after this message. How do you feel about the Bulls? How would you like to be on our show, the Bulls Guys Podcast, and give your thoughts on the team? Send us your emails at talkingbulls82@gmail.com, and we'll be glad to have you on. All right, we're back on the Bulls Guys Podcast. So, Greg, dominate in fashion by the Bulls. But it took a little bit. It seemed like it was a seesaw back and forth. The Bulls would go up 11. Then the Wizards would cut it back down. A couple baskets from Kuzma, a couple baskets from Dinwiddie. Beal going to the line, getting a couple and ones, a couple fouls. It just seemed like this game was like it was a tug of war for the first three quarters, and then the Bulls just kind of pulled away at the end.
Yeah, it did seem like at points the Wizards were going to try to make a comeback. I do like how the Bulls kept their poise and never really gave into that comeback. Like the Bulls will go on a 8-0 run or something like that. The Wizards would follow it up with one of their own.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the Bulls outscored them in every quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, even looking at that, it did look like towards the end of the first half that the Wizards were going to kind of start to creep back into it. But I do like the Bulls' poise. I know you and me were got a text about this a little bit. I didn't like how they were just kind of. I don't even know if they were ignoring Kuzma or what the deal was.
I don't think Kuzma's that good, man. They just don't defend him. They just let him just come in and just get these shots, and then he just so arrogantly just scores on us, man. I'm like, yo, somebody send this guy a shot to the first row, man. I don't know what it is about Kuzma, his energy. I just don't like him, yo. He's just one of them players that make you just want to just go out there and block his shot yourself.
I think the reason why, because I mean, I'm not a Kuzma fan either. I will say this. I was when
Why not, Greg?
But it's because so Bill Simmons coined this phrase of irrational confidence, right? So he was describing like Nick Young and like J.R. Smith and things like that. But the difference is with those guys, all right, besides the fact that they're likable, right? Like they could, there were times they could hit shots. Like Kuzma, his last year with the Lakers, played like absolute garbage. But if you were to hear him talk, you swear he was the best player on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why he's so off-putting to so many people. Because I mean, and I get it, right? Like if you're in the NBA too, like you have to feel like carry yourself like you're a star if you want to get better. Work and have that mindset. But he acts like he's the best player on the team when he's not. When I can't, at least in the NBA, I can't say he's ever been the best player on any team he's been on.
The type of shots that he's making, if somebody was there to cover it, he could get blocked. That's why I'm so frustrated. I'm like, I know somebody could have blocked that. It was one where Bradley just stood right near him, and he just spent on Bradley. Bradley didn't even try to adjust and try to block the shot. I'm like, yo, Bradley, try to block that shot, man. But switching back to the Bulls, they had a big shooting night from three, man. They hit 15 3-pointers in this game. Yeah. That I guess you can say is the difference, And then they had 41 rebounds, 34 assists as a team. They really moved the ball tonight. They really moved the ball and played really unselfish tonight.
And
11 steals. Yeah, bench points was really huge too.
plus they had more than 50 bench points, so that was huge.
Yeah. So you're starting to see the Bulls get points from everywhere. You're starting to see them show their depth. They're just passing the ball. Everybody's contributing. Ayo had some big points tonight.
Yeah, yeah. I was joking with you earlier. I said they should retire his jersey before every game if he could come out and play like this.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah, man.
congratulations on his retirement of his jersey at his college.
Yeah,
This past weekend?
yeah.
Number 11
So
for Illinois.
yeah, so congrats to him. But
Mm-hmm.
man, yeah, him and Kobe, like really at one point, I think in the first half they were like combined. They had 22 points. They were 7 from 8 from the field, 4 for 4 for three, and had 5 assists. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like if you're getting that type of production coming off your bench, you're gonna be hard to stop. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not expecting them to come out and only miss one shot, from now on. But I'm just saying, like if you put up comparable numbers to that, like you're gonna be hard to stop. And then of course we got to talk about how eventually, Caruso's gonna come back into the fold, and Javante's gonna come back into the fold, and things like that. So like really, if we're looking at it, we haven't been like a fully healthy team all season, right? So like we don't even know what this team's ceiling is, like what they're gonna look like at their best, at their healthiest yet.
That's why I'm sitting here and you talking about Milwaukee, man. And I don't even think these teams really know what the Bulls really are. And the Bulls are just still whipping tail. And I like the quote that I had seen from DeRozan earlier this week when he said, we're not just trying to just win, the best record in the East. We're not satisfied with just, an 8-game win streak. He said we want to keep on going. And that was my thoughts exactly, man. I don't care about this winning streak. I don't care about this number one seed. I want us to go to the finals and win a championship, man. The Bulls I was 19 when the Bulls won their last championship. I'm 40 years old now. I think as a grown man, I think they need to win the title for me being a grown man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So let's do it. Let's get this done, man.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, right? Like you said, like there's been teams. I think that year Houston Rockets went on like a 26 game win streak or something crazy like
Uh-huh.
that, and for all those years when Steve Nash was in Phoenix, they was winning 60 games. Hell, the Warriors set a record and won 73 games, but at
Uh-huh.
the end of the day, they didn't win the title, so none of it really matters, right? Like you going home with nothing.
Uh-huh.
So you know, obviously getting the number one seed helps, as far as home court and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's really about winning the title and positioning yourself to have a chance for a championship. And I like the quote from Demarr because it shows like that's where their focus is. Their focus isn't about, like I guess finally the national media is starting to somewhat pay attention or is being forced to acknowledge the Bulls, right?
But
And
to
try to
keep
make it like I would say to try to make it like a feel good story or whatever. It's like, oh, they got this win streak, but that's not where their focus is. Their focus is on the championship, and that's where it should be.
Yeah, it should be there. But the reason why I'm a piggyback on what you just said about getting the best record and getting home court. The reason why I think it's not important to think about that is because let's say you played your best and you went after that number one record and you fell short. You know what I'm saying, Greg?
Hmm.
I don't want you to be disappointed because that's the goal that you set, and then that would kind of throw you off for the rest of the year as far as playoffs. You can still fall short of the first record and give your all, but that still shouldn't stop you. You know, all the last 5 NBA champions that we've had, they didn't all have the number one seed, so that should tell you something.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Last year the Milwaukee Bucks won the championship. They wasn't the number one seed last year, were they?
Nope, they weren't.
It was Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
You see, so it's like the number one seed doesn't really guarantee you a championship. So that's why I say the Bulls' focus should be on winning the NBA title. Now, is it nice to have the best record and have people look at the standings and the Chicago Bulls number one? Yeah, but I just think for this team, it's more about proving people wrong all the way through the year. It doesn't really have nothing to do with the record. I just felt like the tone was set when we were deemed a playing team. When that happened, most of these guys were disrespected before that because, the teams that they were supposed to be re-signed to gave up on them, so they had a lot to prove. So the Bulls came in this season with a chip on their shoulder, and that you're seeing what you're seeing every night, on a nightly basis. They're just destroying people, man. That Magic game, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't like that game. I didn't like our competitive standpoint in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of bring it back even with Kuzma. I think it was kind of the same attitude that they kind of just felt like they were the better team and should just be able to kind of go through the motions. And the you give credit to the Magic. They play. They go out there and play, and they hustle and they play hard. And it seemed like for a second at the end the Bulls were trying to give it away with just sloppy play, turnovers, things like that at the end of that game. But yeah, this game was much better. They played with more poise, and it looked like they were really out to win. Not so much like, oh, we already beat this team type of thing. But again, my only thing, like I said, was just the way that they were guarding or not guarding Kuzma. If I were to nitpick, right, like it's just like he's still an NBA player, I guess. Regardless, I don't know how much you respect him or not, but he's still an NBA player. You gotta guard him. You can't keep leaving him open. So.
Couple scores around the league, Bulls fans. The Minnesota Timberwolves defeated the OKC Thunder 135-105. The Dallas Mavericks defeated the Houston Rockets 130-106. And Utah dropped a game to the Toronto Raptors 122-108 in Toronto. Brooklyn dropped another game to the Milwaukee Bucks 121-109. Man, it seemed like Milwaukee got Brooklyn's number. What do you think about that, Greg?
Yeah, I guess I could say that they might have Brooklyn's number. Man, I don't know. Like I feel like in a series again, because like I said before, right? Like if Kevin Durant wears his actual shoe size, this whole narrative is flipped, and Brooklyn was in the championship, right? So I'm not so much sold. I think with the Nets, I think the Nets, I think they have the same problem as pretty much all LeBron James type teams, to where they can just feel like they can kind of cruise through the regular season because it doesn't matter. So I'm not even sure how seriously they are taking these games. Just because, if you have Kevin Durant, right? Like you have James Harden when he's playing like James Harden, and you kind of have Kyrie back, right? Like you saw, when they played against Indiana and all three of them they play pretty well, like especially with Kyrie being rusty, right? And not playing, and
I think he had like about 20 something points in that game. I watched that game. Kyrie looked good in that game, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, in looking at it, I'm not so sure if Milwaukee really has their number right now, because I think you brought this up, right? Like Milwaukee caught them injured too, right? Like Kyrie didn't play that entire series. He played the first few games, but didn't play. Like if Kyrie would have played, even if James Harden wasn't playing, Brooklyn would have won that series.
Well, Giannis did go on podium in a press conference and did say, in an interview, and did say, oh, he's happy that Kyrie didn't play in that series. And I think he's the common denominator between these two teams. If he plays, Milwaukee's toast, because I don't think they have anybody to match up with Kyrie on that team.
No, they don't. They don't. And if everything kind of stands right, like Milwaukee would be in trouble if they sneak ahead of Brooklyn in the standings and then have to play them, because if Brooklyn doesn't have home court, that means Kyrie's playing at least 4 games in Milwaukee. So then, if Brooklyn doesn't beat them beforehand, so
well, they helped the Bulls out because they knocked the Nets down a
Yeah.
game, and one more loss. So the Bulls got
Yeah.
a little breathing room with the number one seed in the East. So these two teams right here that we're talking about is prevalent to the Bulls because they're the two teams behind us in the standings. Kevin Durant had 29, 9 rebounds and 7 assists in this game. Giannis had 31, 9 assists and 7 rebounds in this game. The two stars of the game dropping big numbers, but a lopsided win by Milwaukee. But back to the Bulls. I don't think either of these teams can deal with us, man. I really don't. I think at full strength, when we get Caruso back and we get all our guys back, I just think we're a handful for any team in the East. Now the West is a different story. I'm waiting on that Warriors game. That's the game I really want to see.
Yeah. I can say this. For me, yeah, the Warriors game is going to be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also excited in about 2 weeks when they play Memphis because I'm gonna be at that game and the way Ja's playing and the way Memphis is playing. I think this is gonna be a really really good game.
Oh, you going to
So
see Ja, huh, Greg?
yeah, yeah, I'm going to see Ja. So I'll be out in Memphis rocking my Lavine jersey, but I
Oh, you
think
going
that's
to
what.
Memphis?
Yeah, I'm going to Memphis.
Okay, that's a big time game to go to, man, and travel to.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I think that's gonna be a really good game
It
going
is.
forward.
And I believe that's on Martin Luther King Day, ain't it? It always falls on
That's
that day.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's the 17th, January 17th.
Yeah, that's usually
Yeah,
when they always put us against Memphis.
yeah. So
Um, well, this is a big game, big win by the Bulls. Now the Bulls improved to 26-10, number one seed in the East. When we come back, we're gonna wrap the show up right after this. How do you feel about the Bulls? How would you like to be on our show, the Bulls Guys Podcast, and give your thoughts on the team? Send us your emails at talkingbulls82@gmail.com and we'll be glad to have you on. All right, we're back on the Bulls Guys Podcast. So the All-Star votes has Demarr Derozan number one. I'm going to rely on Greg to give me those specific All-Star voting numbers. We have Zach at the 4. I believe one of the guys that he does trail.
well, right now in the East, he's behind Harden, Trae Young, and DeMar.
Trae Young is the guy that I thought
Yeah,
knew he was behind. He
yeah.
shouldn't be behind Trae Young, Zach Lavine.
I think it's more because um, like nationally, they market Trae Young more than they market Zach. I think
And
that's
Vooch
really
is
what it is.
last at his position at 10th.
Yeah, he is 10th in the Eastern Conference. But I mean, even still,
No, 10th at his position.
well, it's just in the front court.
Yeah.
So I mean, even still though, like I would not have expected him to make it into the top 10. Like I mean, if we're being honest, like he hasn't played his best, and I think it also kind of shows with the votes, as he has the least votes out of like literally everybody here. He has
Mm-hmm.
less than 100,000 votes. Yeah,
What you
with
saying?
I'm saying with Demar leading the guards and Zach not too far behind, I really think they both should make the All Star game. But I mean, I think the fan voting.
They're going to make it.
I mean, I think if we look at it, if we really want to be honest, the fan voting sometimes comes off as a little bit of a joke. Just for the fact that Klay Thompson is fourth in the West, hasn't played a single game in what 2 years.
Yeah, that's biased.
So I mean, he's ahead of Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Donovan Mitchell, Dame, Russell Westbrook, and Anthony Edwards. That hasn't played a single minute this year so far. So I mean,
Mhm.
I do think that going back, I think with DeMar, I think especially those back-to-back game winners that came in 2 different years. um, I think that really helped his cause, and people, too. You have to start to recognize the Bulls. So I think this will be good.
Well, I'm gonna tell you which player in the West I'm gonna vote for that I didn't vote for yet. Chris Paul. I have to vote for Chris Paul. I have to. The guy's like what 50 years old, and he's still leading the Suns to the best record in the West. I mean, they even age. He's like Jim and LeBron, man. Them guys don't age.
Yeah, I guess it depends on too how you play, right? Like for him being more of a traditional point guard,
Mm-hmm.
like his game isn't really based on athleticism. So he could probably do it a little bit longer, right? Like do it at a high level. If his, high
Mm-hmm.
assist, low turnover, doesn't really need to score all the time, right? Like he can, is capable of getting his mid range off of pick and rolls, right? Like that doesn't necessarily take a lot of athleticism. He's not out there throwing down tomahawks or nothing like that. So I can see how he could, keep up a high level of play for, so long too.
I would like to get Christian Wood in there, but I don't think he'd probably get in because number one, he's a new player, and plus, like the Rockets are not winning. So mostly players that teams win to get in, and I don't see him getting in. But Christian Wood, he wouldn't be a bad pick to get in the All-Star game.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know who I say not I'm fairly certain he's not going to make it, but I do think, or at least not this year, but I do think he'll be exciting. Is Anthony Edwards. Uh,
Uh-huh.
that he's been balling out. I think the fact that he's in Minnesota and nobody kind of cares about Minnesota, but he's been really really good. Kind of in that same vein, like when we talk about Chicago, where nationally they're not really paying attention, but Anthony Edwards, to his credit, has also had some highlights here and there when he's been just yamming on people. So
Uh-huh.
I think that's somebody to kind of look out for in the future going forward. Who I would like to see get a shot. But we'll see how the All Star game turns out, because I mean I feel like we were talking about the 75 greatest player. There's always going to be somebody who is on the outside that we feel like should have gotten in, as opposed to somebody who purely got in just for name recognition.
Most improved player of the year. Who you think that should go to?
Definitely not Demarr. No,
Lonzo.
who said, somebody said, I don't remember who it was. Yeah, somebody, I don't remember if it was like one of them talking heads in the media or somebody, but they said that DeMar should get most improved player. And of course, Vooch came in to stick it up for his teammate. He said, I
Oh,
think you
that was
mean like,
Brian Scalabrine.
yeah,
They was
Brian, yeah.
roasting him.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, DeMar's been good. He's a 4-time All-Star. Like,
He was getting
I
roasted
think,
on Twitter for that comment. Like I seen all
yeah,
those comments.
yeah, it's just like, just because you haven't been watching doesn't mean that yeah. I mean, I get it if you were to look at it on the surface, like, oh yeah, DeMar is back, right? Like he's been in San Antonio. He was in San Antonio.
Uh-huh.
Okay, nobody was paying attention to him in San Antonio. It wasn't like he still wasn't putting up 20 something a game, because he was. It's just they weren't really doing anything. Somebody paid attention, so he's still been DeMar. He's just now with the Bulls having this resurgence, it's all kind of just falling into place at the same time. So yeah, to me, I feel like if we're talking about DeMar, that he should be considered for MVP. Yeah, as far as most improved, I could see Lonzo, but I think that even with Lonzo, if I'm being honest, I think Lonzo's playing more like he did 2 years ago. His last year with the Pelicans, they decided that they wanted to have Zion have the ball in his hands more, which took Lonzo off the ball, which made him less effective, which
Uh-huh.
made it seem like he was having more of a down year. I think that kind of messed up his whole rhythm and flow into the game. So now, with Chicago, with him having the ball back in his hands and things like that, I think you're starting to see the real Lonzo show up, like more of the Lonzo that the Lakers are looking at when they drafted him out of UCLA. I think that's kind of what we're starting to see more, because he's allowed to be him. So,
Man, he hit 6 threes tonight, man.
yeah,
You saying he's the old Lonzo from the Lakers?
No. I'm saying that's who the Lakers thought they were going to get when they drafted him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the
As,
fact that I'm gonna tell you what, he's my most improved because the way he shoots 3-point shots, you would have never known that he would be shooting like this, based on the way he used to shoot.
yeah, and I mean, I guess too, like when he came out, they had to change his form and do all of that, and I think now that he's used to his form too, and like I said, now he's able to play free. He's actually able to be Lonzo, right? Because when his time with the Lakers, he couldn't be Lonzo, right? Because was he there? I mean, LeBron was there, so that created a problem as far as having the ball in his hand. You
Mm-hmm.
go to the Pelicans, right? Zion's there. They want him to have the ball in his hands. Can't be Lonzo. Now in Chicago, he could actually have the ball in his hands. He can be Lonzo. It's not so much a pressure of, okay, as soon as you get the ball, pass it to LeBron, pass it to Zion. No, it's like you go, you run the offense, set things up. And now, like I said, he can be him. He can be that playmaker. He can be comfortable in his own skin. So, and I think it's showing on the court. So that's why his play is so improved.
Mm-hmm. The Bulls win this one 130-122 against the Washington Wizards. When we come back, we're gonna wrap up the show right after this.
The Bulls Guys Podcast, formerly known as the Talking Bulls Podcast. The most up-to-date Bulls news, rants, and in-your-face, blunt opinions. Follow us on YouTube, Anchor, and all social media platforms. Get all your up-to-date information on the Chicago Bulls right here on Talking Bulls Podcast.
All right, Greg. So we reached the end of the show. Big time win over the Washington Wizards, another team that I like to beat a lot. Never forget that playoff series where they destroyed us after we lost Rose for the season.
Yeah.
And we went to that first round series against them, and it was some rumors too. I don't know if it's much of a rumor. I think it's fact. Joakim Noah having an argument with the Wizards security guards during a shoot around.
Yeah,
They were telling him to leave.
I think they even mentioned it a little bit on the broadcast.
You remember they did tonight?
I think so. I know they were mentioning Joakim about getting into an argument, but I didn't really.
I just heard of them talking about his connection with his coaches, Billy Donovan and Tibbs.
Yeah,
But I remember.
I think it was, just kind of. I think it was more of a throwaway type thing. But I mean, too, it's not surprising like how Joakim is, right? Like, doesn't come off as a surprise.
But I mean, I don't count that, man. All these teams that beat us when we lost Rose, man, it was like, man, it doesn't count. But they got hyper and threw a celebration. I'm like, come on, man, you just beat an injured team. Same thing for the Sixers when we first lost Rose.
Yeah.
But big win for the Bulls tonight. It was a frustrating game for me all the first 3 quarters. I'm like, man, like we keep losing these leads, but they maintained and they got it. So, Greg, tell the listeners where they can follow you.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at glove1989.
Follow Greg right there on Twitter. It's also going to be in the show notes. And that's it. Thank you for joining us, the Chicago Bulls fans. Thank you for joining us, Chicago. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.